Tying a very popular trout nymph today. This is called the Walt's worm. It's a really, really simple little fly with a bead head, a little bit of weight, a dubbed body. That's really about it. The nice thing about it is it doesn't actually represent any one particular food source, but it represents many different food sources. You could do this in a little bit of a light green body, and you've got a caddis, you've got darker brown like a mayfly. You could have this kind of color right here for a scud or sow bug. There's just a lot of different things that this can look like, and it's so easy to tie. It's also very versatile. You can put a rib on here if you want, or you could have an accent thread color on here to make it a little bit more attractive, to elicit strikes, things like that. But it's just an all-around very, very good fly. Certainly to have in your toolkit for not only trout fishing, but for panfish and warmwater species. That's the Walt's worm. I'll get started tying. I'm going to start the Walt's worm with my hook and the vise. This is a Mustad 3906B in a size 14. I'm going to debarb the hook. Now the Walt's worm has a bead on it, so I'm going to have to thread this bead. This is a 3/32 silver bead. I'm going to thread this with the small end right there, going over the point like that, and then it will come around to the back end and the wider end being in the back. You can use a smaller bead on this if you want. It doesn't have to be a 3/32 on this size hook. You could go with something smaller or even a little bit bigger if you want to. That's up to you. And you can have colored beads or copper beads. Walt's worm's an interesting fly in that there's lots of different ways that you can tie this. Generally, it's tied with a bead and some rabbit and antron dubbing. I think it's antron. And but you can use other dubbings. I've seen this tied with lots of different dubbings and different colors, even like a light green for a caddis or something, and with or without a rib if you want to. That gets my bead onto the hook. First thing I'm going to do is add some weight using some lead wire. This is a .020 lead wire. I'm going to put about 8 wraps on here. Once I get all of these wraps in here, use my finger. There we go. Trying to get that one in the back smoothed down. Once I get all these wraps in here, I'm going to push all of those lead wraps up into that bead to the front. I'm going to attach my thread. For thread, I'm using, this is a Danville 70 Denier in an olive color. You can use black if that's all you have. I'm going to attach my thread along the middle of the hook shank right behind those lead wraps. So then I can wrap up forward to just secure those lead wraps in place. I'm not going to put a lot of wraps right behind that bead, because once we put our dubbing in and our finish knot will actually lock in that bead. A lot of times you might want to, if you're using a bead on a nymph like this, you might want to put in more wraps right behind it here to kind of lock that bead in so it doesn't move and it doesn't wobble or anything. Like I said, once we put our dubbing in, we'll do that. Now I'm just going to wrap down to the end of the shank and back up, just putting a base layer of thread on. And then I'm going to start just right behind the bead here. I'm going to put my dubbing in. Again, you could put a rib on if you wanted to secure some ribbing material, a wire, or some sort of mylar or something like that in there if you want to try and do that. This is a Lifecycle dubbing. It's a pre-made dubbing in a tan color. It has some, it's not clear acrylic, but it has some acrylic tannish yellow fibers in it to give it a little sparkle, and some rabbit fur in it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a fairly sparse dubbing noodle, probably about 3 inches. And I'm going to apply it working from the front on back down to the end. And this allows me to have greater control over the exact taper of the body. So I've got about a 3, maybe 4 inch dubbing noodle here. Start wrapping rearward. Don't make it too thick as you're going back. You just want to cover that up and then cover that and then come back forward. And now we're going to fill in some gaps and we're going to control the taper of that a little bit more. I want to have just a little bit more behind that bead, so I'm going to apply just a real thin dubbing noodle right here. And I'm going to bring the body diameter out to about the same as the bead right here. Now I could put a whip finish in here and try and get a little head cement in there, but I find the head cement will sometimes soak into the materials and kind of make them a little stiffer or darken it up. So what you can do is you can put a little bit of head cement or adhesive, whatever you're using, on the thread wraps before you do your whip finish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of Dave's Flex Cement here. Let me get this out, my whip finish tool ready. The Flex Cement goes on nice and thin on here, but it doesn't dry real quick, which is nice, and I only need maybe an inch for a few wraps. So it doesn't dry real fast, so I don't have to scramble to get my whip finish tool out. As you can see, I'll just put in 4 or 5 wraps, and most of that Flex Cement's all wrapped down inside of that whip finish, but it does not soak down into the rest of the body, which is kind of nice. I just want it to protect those threads just a little bit. Remember, this is a small little nymph. It's going to bounce around on the bottom. Fish are going to chomp on this, and so it's going to get shredded. You can shape it a little bit. Also understand the more you fish it, the more a lot of these fibers are going to come out, and it's going to get kind of bushier. It is just a very, very effective little pattern. It is, to my knowledge, I've never fished in any competitions or anything, but I've read up on different things, and this is a very, very popular competition fly, meaning a lot of people will use it, as well as I know it's a good trout fly, and it's also an excellent warm water panfish fly. I have never tied it big enough maybe for some smallmouth. I should try that at some point. But that's the Walt's worm. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vice today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch. Or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. And what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.